Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mr. Hicks podcast. We're here getting it in once again, time and time again. I am joined by young Mr. Hicks, Mr. Marcus,
Yep.
the real Mr. Marcus. And we're doing a college football wrap-up show this evening. It was honestly a really good slate of games, at least very competitive.
Yeah.
Had some games that were really a lot closer than we thought. Got some real surprises this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We already covered Alabama and Tennessee, because honestly, that was just epic enough game that it deserved its own show.
Yeah.
And so we want to go over the couple of games we talk about now. I was really hoping it was my drill weekend this weekend, so unfortunately I didn't get to see a lot of the games that I wanted to see. But I was looking at Texas because you kind of have to. They're just the big name like that. And you look up and you see Iowa State beating Texas in the fourth quarter. And I remember you texted me.
Yeah, I texted him. Iowa State is about to beat Texas. Texas is once again about to Texas, and I kind of expected it coming off of a big win against Oklahoma and stuff like that. Emotions were high in that game. They absolutely smoked Oklahoma, and rightfully so. And then they go into the next game. They came out flat, and Iowa State was this close
Really
to beating
close.
them.
I was really like that. This would be the most Texas thing ever for them to lose to Texas Tech and then beat the brakes off Oklahoma, and then lose to Iowa State the next week. That would be the most Texas thing ever.
Yeah.
The fact that I am not excited about this week. I mean, we're going to roll our helmets out there and expect our jerseys to just beat the next team, and that would be very much like Texas. So Quinn Ewers, who looked like a superhuman versus Oklahoma, kind of came back down to earth a little bit. He was 17 for 26 with only 172 yards, did throw 3 touchdowns. Bijan Robinson is the rock of this team. He is still and continues to be that dude.
Yeah.
I will be the first one to say I was wrong about Bijan Robinson. I thought he was not playing great competition in high school, and he was like a 7-on-7 star. Boy, was I wrong. So I can freely admit that. I think that's an important thing to do on shows, because it's like, I'm not a pro at this. I'm going to look around and make my opinions. But Bijan is good. He was 28 for 135 yards. Roshan Johnson, 11 for 71 receiving. And then Worthy, 8 receptions for 72 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I was really hoping they lost this game.
Yeah.
But they did manage to pull it out. And I will say this, that's what's supposed to happen. You're going to have some close ones. You're going to have some scraps. But I would say, the old Texas, they would have folded like chins. They would have lost this game. And I'm a big believer, you could do a whole show just on following Miami and Texas. Because the people were like, oh, is Miami back? Is Texas back? In 1 week, yes, they're back. And the next week, no, they're not.
Because last week it was like, oh my goodness, Quinn Ewers, Texas is back. We just absolutely stumped our rival 49-0. This is just amazing.
Quinn Ewers walks on water. He turns water into wine. He is that dude.
Yeah.
I heard that he's already made $1 million off his NIL deals.
Wow.
Just actually driving around. He got that truck, whoever he wanted the NIL, they just gave him a $75 truck driving around as a freshman.
Wow.
Yeah, driving around as a freshman is different now. Those of you who don't know that Bijan Robinson has an NIL deal with freaking Lamborghini.
Yeah.
He is driving around with a legit Lambo.
And the thing on top of that, if you're Bijan Robinson, you can pull girls in a Toyota Camry. You know what I'm saying?
So yeah.
And on top of that, they gave him a Lambo. It's not fair for the rest of us regular people. It's really just
you're trying to doing your thing with your your 1997 Corsica or whatever, and Bijan, who was already the starting running back at Texas, pulls up in a Lamborghini, and you have to return to reality and go so you just gonna hop in the Lamborghini just like I ain't nothing, and she just kind of looks at you like yeah. I am going to do that. So let's go. So Clemson, and we're going to beat on Clemson a little bit, because that's kind of what we do here. We're not impressed. We're not, And as oddly enough, as much as I really like Dabo Swinney and what he's done with the program, how he's built it, what he's turned it into, I believe that some of he's just in a stone age with some of this stuff. He's not big into the NIL. He's definitely not big into the transfer portal. Like Notre Dame had more transfers come in than Clemson did. Yeah. Like that goes to show you that how like no, we're just not about it. Like it was like I think it was like Army had 0, Navy had 0, Clemson had 0. Notre Dame had 1. Like those were the numbers for transfers coming in the program. He's just not about it.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, dog. If everybody else is gonna be bringing in transfers that's in the top 10 trying to get better, and you're just he actually said that I have a transfer portal. It's called the locker room. I'm gonna go and get some of those guys to come do this job. And like, yo, dog.
Meanwhile, the teams that you're competing with, like Alabama, they get Jahmyr Gibbs out of the transfer portal. He's looking like a Heisman candidate at running back. He's looking absolutely amazing. And you're competing with that. You know, you're just like, oh, I got, you know, a sophomore who can, you know, who we think can do the thing. And, you know, it's just going with the guys in the locker room. And you're not going to be able to compete with those teams.
Right. So DJ Uiagalelei has been a large, just been a disappointment of, not necessarily is he terrible. Well, last year he was terrible.
Yeah.
But this year he's not doing awful. He's just not doing what your 6'5", 250-pound rocket arm human specimen, which you thought he was going to do.
And it feels like we're still waiting on him to be that guy.
Right.
It's just not happening.
Right. Now, it might be the receiving core is not what it has been. They never had like a lot of great receivers, but they always had a dude.
Yeah.
And that has not been the case. Well, DJ, he 203 yards. That's what he did. 203 yards. And he
special.
he did three. Well, now mind you, he threw 3 touchdowns and he rushed for 1. So if you're 6'5" and you're 250 pounds, you should absolutely be able to do a quarterback sneak for a touchdown on the goal line at least once a game. So I give him credit for that. Will Shipley. For being 6'5", yes. So Will Shipley, 20 carries for 21 yards, 0 touchdowns. The defense, just surprised that the defense gave up 28 points to a Florida State who was just regular and degular. Like, it just, man.
Yeah.
A lot of man out of Florida State. Like, there was a lot of talk, like, that Norvell was going to get fired, and then they won a couple of games, and it's like, they're turning a corner. Maybe, and then they turn
LSU. They have some hope, and it's just
yeah. I mean, like I'm thinking Norvell. Well, the thing is, like Norvell took over during the COVID year, so that is really tough. You can't get kids on campus. It's kind of hard to get a team excited to come get an offer from Florida State when Florida State was really bad at the time. Yeah. You're a new coach, and now you got COVID, and you can't get dudes on campus the way that you want to. So that was tough, of course, but like. Yeah, so moving right along, Michigan beats the Bud Jesus out of Penn State, out of the most, listen, I like James Franklin, okay? I do. I still give him all the credit in the world for what he did at Vanderbilt. He won 9 games 2 years in a row while he was good. That is pretty much magic. That's pretty much, he's out there with smoke and mirrors and like rabbits and hats and stuff like that. To do that was truly one of the best coaching jobs in the history of college football, in my opinion.
Yeah.
However, I just feel like Penn State just never really turns the corner.
Penn State has been an above-average team pretty much the whole time that James Franklin has been there, and he's getting paid like the elite coaches. He's getting paid like you would pay Urban Meyer. A Nick Saban. Like you would pay a Kirby Smart, guys that have actually won championships. He's getting paid like that, and he's not performing to that level. They've been above average, and the offense doesn't look great. They went out and they got absolutely smacked by Michigan's run game. They had
just the run game.
Yeah, I mean, because J.J. McCarthy didn't really kill it on his own, and we're yet to see a game where J.J. McCarthy really has to win the game. It's mostly just been, handoffs and game managed until they win the game. Yeah. And, that's worked for them. So,
Yeah. That was actually a really cool recruiting story. So that Kyle McCord that ended up at Ohio State and J.J. McCarthy, who is at Michigan, were both trying to go to Ohio State. Right. McCarthy goes on his visit, and he I don't know if you know how the game goes, but it's like you have an offer, but your offer is not really an offer, especially if you're quarterback, if you're Ohio State, you got to pick up pretty much anybody, quarterback you want. Right. So he goes to there. He wants to commit on his visit, and they will not accept his commitment. And they told him, like, we're not going to pick a quarterback until August. So he goes in, like, June. We're not looking to take a commitment from any quarterback until August. And then Kyle McCord comes in there the next, like, 2 weeks later, and they take his commitment. So he is pissed.
Yeah.
He is, by the way, he is from Ohio, too. So he was hot. And then he said, like, you know what? Screw you guys. I'm going to go to Michigan. So he basically goes to Michigan out of spite. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I love college football, because the hate is real.
Yeah.
The games are dirty. The hate is real. You just got to love it. Sean Clifford did Sean Clifford things. He was about as good at football as Clifford the Big Red Dog. So he went 7 of 19 for 120 yards. That sounds like what a high school quarterback running the wing tee does on a Friday night. Yeah. So Singleton, the running back, they're running backs. They're not even trying to run the ball. They had 3 running backs that each had 6 carries. That was the bulk of the running game.
They're not getting much out of their running game, and also, Sean Clifford's not good enough quarterback for you to consistently rely on the pass game. So I really don't know what's going on with their offense. I don't think they can beat any decent football team with that roster. They've skated by some average teams, but
yeah. So basically, it's like PSU. Penn State beats bad teams. Yeah. They'll be bad teams, but they won't beat good teams, and that's kind of been the story on them. I will say that the Michigan running game is just they out here to punch you in the face and make you like it. Like basically, it's like, all right, you show up for 3 o'clock, and we're going to punch you in the face for a couple of hours, and you're going to take it. Yeah. And that's about all you can say. It's like, could you only punch me on the right side? I mean, could you at least like? Yeah. They were like, no, okay.
You watch that game. Penn State can't do anything about it. Michigan is going to line up. They're going to tell you, "Hey, we're going to run," and there's nothing you can do to stop it. So
like Donovan Edwards, 16 rushes for 173 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then you've got Corum had 28 carries, just straight up workhorse day, 166 yards and 2 touchdowns. So really. Just a bludgeoning for 41-17. For you to lose 41-17 and get dominated in the run, that just feels like you're just getting punched in the face all day. Yeah. Like it's like if they threw the ball on you, at least you could say that. But I mean, like to get run on like that and to be on that defense, that means you were basically on the field the entire day. Yeah. Like you're looking at the offense,
especially because it was a lot of 3 and outs. Because Michigan's defense played great. So they were giving the ball right back to the offense, and then that's why their time of possession was so heavily lopsided in that game.
Yeah, I believe it was like time of possession. Yeah, it was 41 minutes to 18 minutes. Yeah. So just rough all over the place, and total yards for Michigan was 568 to Penn State's 268. So it was just it's hard. It's something like that. It's almost hard to watch. Yeah, watching somebody lose in a run game like that. Real quick. So like those are like the big games we want to touch on. But it's like this year, it's hard to admit it's something that we haven't seen maybe ever. But the SEC East is better than the SEC West this year. Yeah, it's kind of hard to argue. Like Georgia's still undefeated. Right. Alabama just lost to Tennessee. Kentucky beat Mississippi State, 27-17. Now, I will say that LSU beat Florida, but LSU's horrible. Yeah. I mean, okay, Florida is equally bad, but LSU's bad too. Yeah. It was like when you look at what's going on that side, like Kentucky was doing the thing for the last couple of years. Then Tennessee comes roaring over the last 2 years and turning that program around. Georgia's number 1. South Carolina is, I don't even know why I brought them up. It's not really. It's like they are also in the East. So it's like they're better, and it's like think about like you got Alabama, Texas A&M, LSU, Arkansas. Like those teams have been really rolling in the last couple of years, and this year it's just flat.
Those are teams that have been, they a lot of people were expecting Texas A&M. Well, there was a lot of hype around Texas A&M. They're a really young team. So I wasn't expecting much. They're just this year. You know, they got some talent. Evan Stewart's killing it right now.
By the way, shout out to Isaiah Rakes and Fadil Diggs that are down there, Jersey, South Jersey boys out there representing down there in Texas A&M.
Yeah. And then you talk about Bama. They look sloppy. The secondary doesn't look great. You know, I mean, there's obviously Bryce Young being Bryce Young, but other than that, I mean, they're not really. I don't think they're a national championship team this year.
No,
you know,
I really don't. Bro, you gave up 52 points to Tennessee. Like, what do you think Ohio State's going to do to you if Ohio State gets a hold of you with your secondary and those receivers? You're going to get blown out.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. There's no pass rush. Your corners can't cover. Your corners can't cover. That dude Wyatt is their number 2 receiver. Hyatt is their number 2 receiver. If Tillman had been there, it would have been worse.
Yeah.
So like this particular game is just kind of near and dear to my heart because I believe UCF is going to be a problem once they get to a Power 5 conference. They recruit really well for what they've got going on. They that Gus Malzahn offense. He's still getting athletes down there. That's the biggest. For those of you who don't know, UCF is actually the biggest student body in all of the country. They're like the biggest school in the country with as far as like the amount of kids that go to that school.
Yeah.
So once they get rolling, I think UCF is going to be great. And Gus Malzahn, who got fired from Auburn, like y'all maybe should be looking back on that Malzahn thing and be like, you know, maybe we should have fired that guy. Sometimes better to stick to the devil, you know, bro. Like. You should not have fired him. No matter what you thought about Gus Malzahn, you shouldn't have fired him unless you knew for sure you had a better option.
And despite not having a great season in those years, he was beating Nick Saban. And, you know, that's one of the things you can't really say about any of the other
anybody.
coaches.
He beat Saban, I think, the only coach to beat Nick Saban multiple times.
Yeah.
So it's like, y'all didn't really pay him any respect. But the reason I'm bringing him up is they beat the dog life out of just out of Temple. Like, Temple's got a new head coach and that program is not well right now. Hasn't been for a while. But 70-13 is egregious.
70 points when you're all D1 athletes. This is all you do. You know, there's professional coaches out there.
Yeah, I mean, at least they got to fly to Florida and maybe got some sun.
That was about, you know, palm trees and ass whipping.
For those of you who don't know, we were actually they played each other last year in Philadelphia, and we went to that game, and it was a sight to behold. Because the funny thing is, we went to when Boston College played Temple as well, and UCF actually beat them worse. Like UCF beat them a lot worse, and it was so hard to watch. Like it was so hard to watch, we left.
It was like leave at halftime bad.
It was like the students left. The
little students that were there left.
Yeah, it was already a pretty bad season, and they saw that they're like, "Man, I'm going to get a cheesesteak and going home."
You know,
it was so bad, but it was embarrassingly bad. Like players like wide open, streaking down the field, like you didn't know who to cover. Bad, not like, "Hey, I can't cover that guy."
Right.
Like who is covering that guy?
Yeah.
Like so wide open, the tight end down the middle of the field. Running into the end zone, looking around like, really? Nobody's gonna. All right. It's just so yeah, that was rough to watch. So Oklahoma beats Kansas. Good for Oklahoma, bouncing back after getting the absolute brakes beat off them by Texas last week.
Yeah.
And just beating Kansas. Kansas has done the damn thing this year. Good for Lance Leipold and the Kansas Jayhawks for bringing that team back, and they still managed to score 42 points.
Yeah.
With their backup quarterback, who is now out for the season. So, like, how bad is Oklahoma's defense? I mean, and a team, and I'm a big believer in this. Hold on. So when you got a team that's got a great offense, like Oklahoma's had a great offense for years, you can play differently and recruit differently to a team when the offense is spectacular. Because you're going to be playing with a lead all the time.
Yeah.
As soon as you're in the second quarter and you're down 2 touchdowns, people stop panicking. They stop running the ball as much. They want to catch up. They don't, because now you don't want to get down 3 scores. That's damn near impossible to come back from.
Right.
So it's like, so now you start throwing the ball, and they know you have to throw the ball, so the defense can take more chances, blitz more, try to get sacks, try to get interceptions. So now you don't have the offense, and you don't have the defense, and it just goes to show. Not only was the defense not playing well, they didn't have any players to play defense with.
Yeah.
And it's just so it is tough to watch. Not a whole lot else to discuss in that game, but just glad to see them show some life after how badly they get beat.
Oklahoma got beat up by Texas and then took that anger out on Kansas the next week. So
they could, because as bad as they got beat, they could have just laid there like a corpse for Kansas the next game.
Yeah.
So big up to Syracuse. So you don't know, Syracuse is still undefeated. So Syracuse beats NC State, and a team that has unfortunately has been kind of a disappointment. I thought there was going to be a good year for them. Shout out to Devin Leary, another South Jersey kid is down there doing the thing.
Yeah.
Not like you can say there's a whole lot going on in that offense aside from Leary. He was literally was a dark horse candidate for the Heisman this year, and that has not worked out well. So too bad for that. But and Notre Dame, Notre Dame lost to Stanford.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, Stanford had one win before this game. Yeah. I will give you, if you had to pick and say like, okay, so who was the one team that they beat? So it's like, so let's just go conferences. It wasn't a very good win. So it's like, what would be a conference be? Would you be like, hey, we beat this guy?
They're not in the Pac-12. Arizona?
No, they're in the Pac-12. So there was an out-of-conference win.
Oh, out-of-conference?
Yeah. So garbage conference of a team that they might have beaten.
Oh. I can't even think of one off the top of my head.
Like Mountain West or Sun Belt. Or
something like that.
Something like that. But you'd be wrong, because it wasn't even that good. The only win that they had this year was to an Ivy League team. They beat Colgate.
Wow.
Yes, they beat toothpaste. And that was their only... And that was their only win. Their only win.
And they had to fly out and pay toothpaste to beat them. Because...
I'm about to say, come on in here. What's your name? Crest? The Crest University? No, Colgate. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But so that one win, like Drew Pine had all of 13 completions for 151 yards and a touchdown. And they lost 2 fumbles. And another Jersey kid, shout out to Audrey Gethsemane, is up there at Notre Dame getting some work in. Yeah. Good for him. And things do not get better for Notre Dame coming up to close the season. They still have to play undefeated Syracuse. They still have to play undefeated Clemson. And they have to play USC. Yeah. USC, now we'll talk about USC, lost to Utah. Now they lost to Utah 42-43. So you can't say that the offense didn't do its thing, because Caleb Williams is just that dude. Yeah. 25 of 42 with 381 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's got a great receiving core. Mario Williams, 4 catches for 175 yards. I don't know the math on that, but that is close to like 30 yards a catch.
Yeah. No, it's more than that.
Also hard to do with no touchdowns.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know how he was able to get that many yards on 4 catches and no touchdowns. Addison, the transfer from Pitt, the controversial transfer from Pitt, 7 catches for 106 yards and a touchdown. Yeah. So shout out to Cam Rising, the quarterback from Utah. So it's 30 of 44 for 415 yards, which is good for him. And then what was it? The tight end?
Tight end.
The tight end for Utah out here looking like like baby Gronk out here. Yeah. 16 catches for 234 yards and a touchdown. Yeah. That's first round stuff right there.
Putting up numbers.
Yeah. But we talked about this. So what do you think about USC this year?
I think USC's, about what we thought they were. They're a really talented team. They brought over Mario Williams from Oklahoma. He's looked really good. They brought over Jordan Addison in the transfer portal. He's also looked really good. Caleb Williams is Caleb Williams. He's, as good as we expected him to be. And, the running game, not really anything. Kind of similar to the same offense, how it was in Oklahoma. And, the defense, not really there. But they're winning in shootouts and putting up numbers like they did at Oklahoma. And, they're a top 10 team in the country, which is, about where I thought they would be in this part of the year. So, I mean, I would say about as good as expected.
What was the name of that defensive end that went there last year? He was at the number 1 defensive end in the country.
Corey Foreman.
Corey Foreman, he was a monster. But even that's like one dude. So there's only so much you can do. All right, to close it out, we're going to go with our top four. So who do we think is going to be in the Final Four this year? You want to go ahead and lead us off?
All right, so starting off with the top four, this might be a controversial statement. I got Ohio State number one. You know what I'm saying? Over Georgia, over Tennessee. They've looked amazing. C.J. Stroud looked really good. Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison as a unit, as a duo, have been putting up crazy numbers.
And they're doing this without Njigba too.
Yeah, we're talking about C.J. Stroud. I think he'll win the Heisman this year. They also have Travion Henderson back there doing his thing. The defense has been, but they're if they get into a shootout with any team, I got that team over any team in the nation. I think they're winning it all this year. You can go ahead and clip that.
Keep your receipts.
Yeah. Number 2 team in the nation, Georgia. Georgia's been whooping up on everybody. Everybody they played. I mean, they just got them whooping Vanderbilt 55-0. But not only did they whack Vanderbilt, they beat good teams like Oregon. Week 1 that was one of the worst worst whoopings that I've seen on a team that was supposed to be a top 10 team.
Like a UFC straight up knees and elbows to the head.
Yeah, I mean they didn't stand a chance. The defense, they've been hit or miss.
It's not bad. It's just not what it was last year.
Yeah, like they kept it close with Kent State for a while. Just beating themselves up and stuff like that. And they almost lost to, who did they almost lose to? Auburn? Was it?
I don't think they almost lost to anybody, but I think actually think about it, Kent State. I think put more points up on them than anybody.
Yeah,
which is really crazy. Shout out to Kent State, by the way.
But and then my third team, probably gonna go Tennessee for obvious reasons. They're undefeated, and they're coming off a big win against Alabama. So they proved that they beat everybody on their schedule so far, and they proved that they can beat a top 5 team like Alabama. Number 3, give me Michigan. Michigan, they're running just off of their running game and their defense. Blake Corum has looked amazing. Maybe a Heisman candidate, we don't know, but he's putting up great numbers along with Donovan Edwards. J.J. McCarthy, he hasn't really had to win any games for them. Yeah. I think if he's put in that situation, we don't really know yet. But, the defense played great. And, so that's my top 4. What about you?
Well, I'm going to go a little controversial this year because this is my personal feeling. It's like, if you're going to go with undefeated teams and get 3 teams, 3 of the teams are undefeated. Ohio State and Georgia and Tennessee are all undefeated. Who has the best win? Of those teams, the team with the best resume, the team with the best win, right now is Tennessee. Yeah. Tennessee was number 6, and they beat the number 3 team in the country, so I got to put them 1. So right now, the resume says Tennessee, so I'm pointing Tennessee 1, and I'm going. I'm going to go Ohio State 2 for the same reason. The reason why I wouldn't put Ohio State 1 is because I just don't know about that defense. Like if anybody is able to slow down the offense. I'm just not honestly like if Ohio State had to play Tennessee, that would be a real shootout. Yeah. And but I would go, and Tennessee's defense is not great considering what they just gave up to Alabama. But I don't know that Ohio State has been tested at all. At least you could say Tennessee's defense has been tested. Right. Number 3, I have Georgia, not through any fault of their own. I just believe that if you get into a situation, if you had to play. One of these things is not like the other. Like if you had to go top 4 and you went, you had to play against Hendon Hooker, C.J. Stroud, or Bryce Young, or even J.J. McCarthy. Stetson Bennett doesn't exactly fit the bill. And like right now, if those teams had to play each other, like you would have a bunch of tight ends and Stetson Bennett, and everybody else would have very talented 4 or 5 star quarterbacks. Blazing wide receivers, and you're out there with Stetson Bennett and a group of tight ends and Lad McConkey, who, by the way, is apparently not great. He was great for 2 weeks, and everybody thought he was White Lightning. Yeah, and it's he's come back down to earth. Like his carriage has turned into a pumpkin. Whatever he turns out to just like he was great. He was great for 7 minutes. Yeah, and then I'm going with Michigan 4. as much as I am not a great believer in their passing game, having a run game and defense will still, that'll get you to the dance.
Yeah.
And like they're probably going to lose to Ohio State, and but I think your only loss being to Ohio State with the rest of their resume is going to get them 4. So that's my 4. And good.
Yep.
All right. Good show. All right, take it easy. Wow.
Cool 30 minutes.